Hi everyone, my name is Caleb and this is Wilfred. Together we are the authors of the book Ascendance, The Road to Being Extraordinary. In this podcast series, we would like to discuss on strengths that you can use at work to become more motivated and energized. And today we'll be discussing on two different themes. Number one will be harmony and secondly, developer.
Yes.
We especially invited Pearlyn here on the set today. Welcome Pearlyn.
Hi.
And Pearlyn herself, she is the fastest, youngest promoting director in her firm. And she has done 3 times MDRT qualification in the past few years. And that's not the best. The best is she has done it and built this business while she's still studying.
Wow.
Yeah, so very honored to have you here today, Pearlyn. So to kickstart everything, shall we discuss on first harmony? Maybe Wilfred, you can define what is harmony for us.
Okay, so for Pearlyn who's high in harmony, for people who are high in harmony, you tend to move towards and you seek consensus. You're energized by common ground, consensus, and areas of agreement. So on the other hand, conflicts and disagreements are very de-energizing to you. You tend to shun away from that, run away from that, which actually is quite dangerous for a financial consultant. Yeah. So for going to our first question. So for consultants with high harmony, you tend to want to seek consensus and agreement with our prospects and our clients and our coaches. But in fact, objections that we get very often are the opposite of consensus. So what do you think about that, Pearlyn?
Right. Can I first start off by saying that when I first saw my Strengths Finder list, right? When my top strength is harmony.
Number one.
Number one, yeah. I hated it. I was like, oh my gosh, why? Am I this like pushover care bear?
Identity crisis.
Identity crisis. I hated it. Okay. But then after delving deeper, I realized that oh my gosh, it's actually a pretty good strength to have.
Okay.
So returning back to the question, right, of having objections and all. I used to see objections as a personal attack to my values.
It's common, right?
Yeah, to my values, I hated it, and I recall back to the earlier days when I've had an appointment with my client, and then she was also perhaps really high in harmony. She was really happy and everything, and then when I went to her place to sign the case, and then her dad swooped in and was like, no.
man.
That had
Okay.
a lot of objections, and then after which I just disappeared for like 2 weeks
Wow.
because I was so upset
So
over it,
de-energized,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
super de-energized. And then I reflect back on that situation, right? It was because I felt like her dad didn't trust me, didn't trust my values, didn't trust what I stood for. It was like really a personal attack instead of looking at it objectively. So moving forward, I guess now how I try to maneuver around the situation is to really understand the other person's point of view, right? And their values, their set of values, understanding that people grow up in different circumstances and they have different set of values, right? So cannot be everybody will will agree to my opinion, right? And instead of focusing on the negative side, right, I seek to find joy in finding the common ground. Like what makes you happy and what makes me happy, the middle ground. Yeah.
You know, sometimes when in this business we meet a lot of people,
Yep.
and not everyone you meet is like they want to build a rapport with you. So when you meet someone with, let's say, someone that's not as extroverted,
Yep.
right, and
Close
they are
up.
just like, one word, one sentence for reply. Like how do you build consensus from there?
Right. I think I respect that as well. I've actually had a prospect who told me that she didn't want me as her advisor because
Wow.
I was too loud.
Isn't that quite a personal attack actually?
Yeah. So thank God I didn't take it personally. I was like, what? Too loud? And then I realized that given different circumstances, having a harmony strength is good is because I'll be able to understand your situation. I'll get to feel the vibe of you as a person and then adjust my energy accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, and adjust my energy accordingly. And a lot of times if I mellow down, tone down, and be able to build rapport, not on a like extroverted vibe, right? Typically most people will be able to, most people who are a little bit more introverted will be able to speak a lot more comfortably, I feel. Yeah.
Sounds like you're constantly trying to be as authentic as possible, as curious as possible, and inquisitive about a person to find things to agree on,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't know much of a person, you don't know what you all can agree with.
Correct. Yeah.
You're very loud, the person is very quiet. If you don't think deeper into it, it just seems you are exact opposites, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
you actually ask questions to understand the person deeper.
Yep.
So what are some ways for listeners here who are also struggling when they meet people drastically different from them? What are some questions or thought processes that you have when you meet someone to find out things about them for you to seek that common ground?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about this person's values. So every time when someone says something to me, I would always think about their thought process, like what goes on in their mind
Why
before
they
they
say
say certain things, you know. And sometimes I don't pay attention to the actual thing. I pay attention to like the why, and I would lean into the empathy side as well, second strength, the empathy side as well, to ask deeper questions of like, hey, why do you say that? What are certain, actually very dependent on situation, right? So try and ask deeper in terms of that particular situation. Let me think of some examples.
Let's say someone says that I'm very low risk in investments. I don't like to do investments because it's very risky. So if you don't understand yourself enough, you'll be like, what? In this day and age, how can you feel that investments are risky and everything, right? So
Yeah.
how will you probe further from there to understand the person better?
Right, how would I probe further? Of course, firstly is to ask why. Like, what are certain experiences you've had with investments? Have your parents invested for you? Because you mentioned you're super low risk, then like how come you know you seem like you have experience in investments before. What are these experiences? What has led you to this conclusion that it is super high risk and everything? Have you what kind of materials have you read online that led you to this conclusion? Just to delve in deeper, because it can go both ways, right? It's either this person has really done all the research and concluded that he or she is really low risk, or if not, it can be, you know, I just read a random opinion on Reddit and then I jump into conclusion. So really is to understand from this person's point of view and react accordingly.
It seems like something you're doing is you don't take their words literally, but you're trying to read between the lines, right? To see what have they gone through in terms of experiences to result in whatever they're trying to say.
Yeah, it's very situational.
Yeah. And something that I think you probably avoid a lot are conflicts, right? But eventually conflicts will come in your life, in the business, right? So how do you do with that? Like, are you more like avoidant at the start, or like do you go like face the problem directly?
Right. I'm quite conflict avoidant as much as possible. You know, I try to make everybody happy. You know, happy environment is the best environment, right? So in the past, I used to just run away from it. So I would disappear from the situation.
Disappear, like literally,
like physically, I would disappear from the situation, or I will keep really, really quiet, not engage in the conversation at all. But then after finding out that. Understanding deeper about this harmony strength, right? And then think, you know, kind of reflecting back on these experiences, I realized that a lot of conflicts are not bad by nature. A lot of times it's we're just trying to discover a certain solution. It's not actually conflict. People are not just fighting because they are fighting. But they are just in a deep discussion that may seem really intense, right? And I would put myself into these conversations, or if there are certain opinions that I feel is like the opposite of the other person's opinions, right? I used to just bury my thoughts. But now I try to be more vocal in terms of my opinions of certain things, and I realized that it's all not too that bad. You know, typically people would understand your situation, and it leads to a better outcome rather than to take it personally, not say anything, and then try to make everybody happy, but then your own self not happy.
So it's important, your role as a high harmony is very important for you to serve as a mediator actually. So in dynamic groups where there are a few dominant leaders, I think it's very important for you to be in that organization. Because you help to iron out our differences and find a common ground from there. So I think
still working on that.
Always be. So maybe to wrap up the part about harmony, I think a lot of the listeners are looking forward to this part. Prospecting is one of the most hated tasks and roles of in any sales profession or as an
Right.
advisor. So the opposite of consensus is objections, right? So how have you grown over the years as a high harmony?
Mm.
When you receive objections, obviously you get very de-energized because you took it personally in the past.
Mm.
So how do you do with it now? How do you reframe your mind using your mature strength of talent?
Right. Which is to expect objections.
Mm.
Yeah, which is to expect objections. I think having this ability to mediate helps me to want to seek joy in, finding the common ground. So expecting that this other person will definitely have a different set of values
Definitely.
compared to mine.
100% is your expectation.
100% is my expectation.
Very
Like,
unique.
then
Right.
someone will have slightly different opinions because everybody have read different things, have different mindset, different childhood. So they will have different mindsets. So coming into it is expecting that this person will definitely have a differing set of opinions. And that makes me a lot happier to be able to find common ground, to understand this person deeper and to find common ground. Yeah. And prospecting is a lot easier that way. Because I take the personal side of things out and view things a lot more objectively. Yeah.
So when you reply their objections, your mind space is that you are aligning perspectives, which is fun because it's
which is fun.
harmonious in nature.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Correct.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, so to sum up the talent of harmony, right, Pearlyn has mentioned that in terms of seeking consensus, she will try to understand the person's perspective instead of like jumping to conclusions, especially when different people have differing views, for sure, because no one is the same exact, right, replica. So in terms of what she has mentioned and what she gave me this perspective, right, is that she's quite clear about what is that raw form and mature form of harmony, right? Which is she will use like contrasting words, like instead of like taking it personally, she will think and read beyond the lines. And in terms of how she deals with conflict generally, instead of like at first she will like run away, shy away, excuse herself from the situation. Now, like what Rufus said, maybe she is like a mediator, sort of, right, in the entire group. And of course, she will share her views as well. Yeah, so that's on harmony. Yeah, and shall we move to developer?
Sure. So for next talent that Pearlyn mentioned would be developer. So she's high developer. Developers recognize and get very energized by small incremental improvements in processes in your coaches. To what seems to most people as just something not worth celebrating about. I think for high developer, you look at it and be like, oh my gosh, like progress is there.
Very
right?
true.
So you recognize more incremental improvements. So for you as because you are the first female associate director in your firm, so you a huge part of your job scope is leadership and coaching. So how would you say you have been harnessing your talent of developer in your coaching, especially new advisors when they're facing struggles and obstacles in their career?
Yeah. I really like this, contrastingly, right? Like I hated harmony, but when I saw developer, I was like, oh yay, great. Yes, but I think I'm in a very fortunate position to be managing and leading people, because every time when I feel down, I just lean towards trying to help other people grow, and it energizes me. And sorry, what was your question again?
So how as a coach right now,
Yeah.
right? How do you use your talent of developer to actually coach your associate, especially when they're new and struggling, right? So were there some instances where they had small, minute improvements and you got very energized by that? Yeah.
Yes, actually all the time, because I think I'm able to point out small efforts that people have made and be able to, I give compliments very easily, it's like free one. Everybody gets a compliment.
You mean it lah.
And I mean it, yeah. And it's because every small effort that they make, I feel like it's worthy of a small celebration, and it's baby steps towards their bigger goal. Yeah. So even if they were to have certain setbacks or anything, if in terms of their actions, they have done certain things in the past week, like prospect one more person, speak to one more retiree, I get really energized by that. I would like the compliments are free flow, like, oh my god, you've done it. And I think sometimes I might have to pull back on some of these compliments as well.
Why do you say that?
Take it for
granted,
I went for a small strengths finder coaching and with strengths finder coaching. And I think the pitfall of that is that they expect the compliment too much already to a point where they may not be progressing at the rate that they should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then delusional, like things are going
delusional.
well because Pearlyn said everything's
Everything
going
is
well.
good, right?
Correct. Like, okay, then next week I prospect just one more person. Or no, you should be aiming for more. And sometimes I need to pull back on these. And I need to reframe their minds a little bit more after understanding, which is questions like, okay, you've done well, you've prospected one more person, or you've prospected this different realm. How can we do better this week? Is there anything that we can improve on this week? Can we do 3 more? Can we do 4 more? Trying to push the limits a little bit more rather than to celebrate every small thing.
Actually, I'm curious, how do you balance having an easy conversation, which means like, oh, good job, right? You're doing well. Because the harmony and the developer in you is doing that. So how many % of time do you spend to have easy conversations versus that tough conversation that you try and avoid even internally?
Oh my gosh, you ask really good questions. You ask really good questions. It's really difficult for me to have tough conversations with my associates, and my command strength is also pretty low. So I feel very de-energized when I have to come in a point of authoritative and have
Take
to
charge.
Like, why never do this, why
take
never do
charge.
that?
Why never?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Directive lah.
Super de-energizing. So instead of doing that, my approach is always to understand from their point of view in terms of certain difficult things that they have not done. Try and uncover the reasons why. Is it because they're not speaking up because of certain reasons? I try and create a safe space for them to voice out their inner thoughts. Yeah, because sometimes when associates are struggling, they feel very embarrassed about their situation, right? And a lot of times, because they feel embarrassed, they don't want to verbalize things. They don't want to share these thoughts and feelings because they feel like nobody is struggling together with them. And in fact, it's the opposite, right? So many people are facing similar situations, and I just want to create a safe space for them to vocalize these struggling thoughts, etc. Yeah.
But how much is too much? Like, every time I meet you, let's say,
No lah.
and every time you tell me the same problems, like, after all, you realize that, it's the same problems that every single time you tell me the same thing, and every time I give you the same solution. So there must be a limit, right, for you to feel like, okay, like,
It's time to
it's like, it's time for the hard approach. Like, I've tried the soft approach for a while now, and time for the hard approach. So how do you deal with that?
Yep. I think I can be stern, although it is de-energizing. So really to point out the facts to them, that like, hey, we've been doing this, and you have not been putting in effort. I think to me, effort is very important.
Okay.
Yeah, if they have not been if they've been putting in effort and the results are not showing, right, at least we know what to work on.
Yeah.
To increase certain effort levels, there are certain things to pinpoint on.
Yeah.
But if they were to fall back into the same pitfalls of pitfalls of not doing certain actions, right, putting in the effort, that is very difficult for us to latch on certain things to grow on. So really pointing out the facts of like, you haven't been doing this, then how? Asking, throwing them back the question of like, then how? Maybe you tell me how to move things forward for you.
So something I thought of as you were sharing your desire and your tendency to actually recognize small progress is to perhaps also have bigger, more critical development goals for people and for yourself as well. So for example, if someone constantly does the same mistake again and again, even though something has been discussed week after week, right? Consider being more critical in terms of that developer talent of yours. Like, set a bigger goal that, like, they have a survival goal where every week they do this, they'll survive. Like a breakthrough goal as well. So they not only survive, but eventually know that what's expected of them to have their breakthrough.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that would come hand in hand with your beliefs and your value set. Yeah, to help them progress while making sure they do well in the career, which is what you want. Yeah.
I struggle with that lah, to have tough conversations. I feel.
Or maybe someone else can do that for you.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
you
yeah.
focus on being the cheerleader, right?
Throw it to other
for
people.
the organization. Some
Yeah.
other person with high command and
Mm.
can take authority to let the person know the hard truth, and then they go back to you to cry, and then you
Yeah.
encourage them.
Good cop, bad cop
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
Right?
So I guess that's
Okay.
how talents and strengths work hand in hand together. Yeah.
And for yourself, since you are quite focused on growth, I would say generally as a person, like do you set development goals for yourself, and how do you go around doing that
Yeah.
in the career, like in the business,
Yeah.
generally speaking?
Yep, 100%. So my development goals is always very people centric. I always tag it to people because when I see my own progress, I feel less happy compared to if I see someone else's progress, right?
Okay.
So how I always tag it is, if let's say I were to do a certain FYC goal, if I were to set certain sales goal for myself, how can it benefit someone else in the team? Can it benefit the female community because I've done certain things? So I always tag it to other people to energize myself to be able to move forward and grow. Yeah. So with that being said, it's identifying what are certain things that have not been done before. The first anything. And can I go and achieve those goals to inspire other people? Yeah. And that pushes me forward towards those goals for my benefit, right? Whilst staying energized as well.
So to sum everything up, for developer, right? What I hear a lot is you're focusing a lot on others' interests more than like I want to just do well for myself. And I just feel that along the way, any progress is a plus point to you. But at the same time, after a while, you realize that not every single thing you should compliment, because after a while it becomes a norm, and to them it's I just feel very good with you, but that doesn't bring them results necessarily. And over the years, maybe you have learned that you may also need to start to have certain tough conversations so that they can really move the needle, they can really, really progress. And I guess you have managed this well for yourself. And I think what Wilfred mentioned just now in terms of like good cop and bad cop, I think you also played that out in your business. And at least your associates or advisors will see you as someone that they can go back to, like warm comfort. Pearlyn is the comfort.
Right.
So to wrap everything up, maybe you have any advice for the audience in terms of anyone that has the strength, harmony, or developer?
For harmony, please don't take things too personally. Don't take things personally, and always see areas of conflict, right, as an opportunity to shine. Because really you'll be able to find common ground very easily. That's your strength, right? For developer wise, if you're not already in a management role, strive towards going into a management role, because that's where you find most joy in, when you're able to work with people.
Who actually put in effort to get progress.
Effort lah, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Any final words, Wilfred?
So I think two quotes remind me of whatever Pearlyn has said. The first one is for harmony would be ask questions to understand, not ask questions to reply them. By understanding a person's worldview and the values, we'll definitely find something that we can find common ground on. And for developer would be progress is more important than perfection. And as long as you focus on progress, things will eventually get the outcome that we want will eventually be achieved. So thanks so much for being here together.
Thanks for having me.
Excited. So that's it for today's episode. See you in the next episode of Strengths Unlocked. Bye-bye.